Thank you. Even a hospital where we all have people we love that are sick and suffering. No, I go to visit my aunt in the hospital. Go in the room, there's another family there with somebody they love who's dying. I say hello to them. Go to my family, past the little white curtain. First words out of my family's mouth, don't talk to those people, they're assholes. You shouldn't have said anything to those people. Shouldn't have said hello to them. Why not? We think they took one of our chairs. We had 4 chairs. They had 2. Now they have 3 and we only have 3. And the nurse is on their side, she's a bitch too, so I don't think. And then my aunt, when our last breaths was, and this is true, telling me, move the TV so they can't see our TV. One thing about Jer, he locks in on anything. Let's face it, does he really need to do this project? No. But when he gets there, he gives you the full day's work. He locks in and focuses like nothing I've ever seen. And like really does all the dirty work with it. We've been rewriting like beasts. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard.
It's hard for him because he's not used to working.
It was a glorious time. It was the beginning of the mob. They all had that Ray Liotta swagger. Caesar couldn't have been more than 28 or 29 at the time, but he was already a legend. He started out doing hits for the legions. Hits never bothered Caesar, but what Caesar really liked to do was steal. He was the kind of guy that rooted for the lions in the gladiator fights. Hundreds of guys depended upon Caesar, and he got a piece of everything they made. It was tribute, just like in the old country. And all they got from Caesar was protection against other guys trying to rip them off. And that's all the Roman Empire was, the police department for guys that couldn't go to the other empires.
World history makes great fodder for comedians. The absurdities, the characters, the modern parallels all provide an endless supply of punchlines. Of course, it takes a talent the caliber of, say, Mel Brooks to exploit that humor to maximum effect. And I'm very happy to report Colin Quinn, with a huge assist from Jerry Seinfeld, is another. I only regret his History of the World in 75 minutes, titled Long Story Short, wasn't longer. Quinn, with his dry, understated Brooklynese, has the perfect delivery for this razor-sharp send-up of civilization. Armed with a jaundiced eye and a quick tongue able to mimic every ethnic persuasion, he gets laughs even when the lines aren't the funniest, though much of it is hysterical. He's at his best when reducing world conflicts to the most basic emotional terms. And while thousands of years are covered in a very brief time, the pacing seldom feels rushed. A series of projections along with sound effects enhance the experience. Jerry Seinfeld gets director credit, no doubt lending his own comic genius to the work. The humor in Long Story Short is infused with plenty of witty insights, even wisdom. My idealistic self wishes it could be seen throughout the world. Maybe it could help people stop fighting each other and laugh at themselves. And that is no joke. Roma Torrey, New York 1.
It's sad. Marxism didn't work, communism didn't work, capitalism doesn't work, nothing works. Even democracy doesn't work. People always go, democracy is the greatest form of government. We have 2 choices for who's our leader. You know, in fascism, you only have 1 choice. That's great. We have 1 more choice than the worst form of government. The way we brag about it, you think it was about 50 choices, you know what I mean? And even 2 choices is not real. That's kind of an illusion. There's nobody votes outside the party, you know, whatever their party is. You know, who's more hated than Ralph Nader for trying to start a 3rd party? People are like, hey, Ralph! It's 2 choices. It's democracy, but we don't want to, you know.
We're back with Jerry Seinfeld. We're joined by Colin Quinn. Colin is a comedian, writer, and his new Broadway show, Long Story Short, History of the World in 75 minutes, debuts, you said November 9th, right?
I said, no, that's 13 days after Jerry's wife's book really comes out.
October 26th, Jerry's wife's book comes out.
28th.
Now?
20. Stop.
26, Jerry.
Okay.
26.
All right. All right, tell me about this show.
My wife's book.
Why are you producing a Broadway show?
I'm directing, Larry.
Directing. Oh,
I wear a cape. I have a beret. I have a cane.
He sits like this in this 3rd row.
I don't know.
Really?
How did this come about?
This is a great story. We started this in the spring, right? We were sitting around. We have breakfast together, Colin and I, multiple times a week. like you go to Nate and Al's, right?
Right.
We have a place here. I'm not going to mention the name.
Okay.
It's not the diner from Seinfeld.
Okay.
And I said to him, I said, you know what you should do? You should do a one-man show, because one of the things that a comedian has that no other person, an actor doesn't have, is if you don't feel like dealing with networks or producers, you can go right to the audience and present what you do.
What is the history of the world in 75 minutes?
It's just that. That's exactly what it is.
And what is it that you don't get about
Will
that?
you begin with Genesis?
Well, no.
No,
Larry.
no.
Larry,
Way before that.
You know, Larry, no offense, I start with the New Testament. No, I'm kidding. But we start with the cavemen. We get to Genesis in a way.
You have cavemen.
Caveman,
with the
and then the birth of Larry King right after that, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I made a joke.
The Greeks first.
Excuse me.
The Greeks first.
For making fun of anything.
The Greeks first.
Well, when you're directing a one-man show, what do you tell them? Move to the left, stand there. What do you do?
That's what I do. Exactly that. Move to the
What
left.
does the director who directs a 10-person show say? Move to the left.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
go, well, who do you have to know to get a latte around here? That's what I do.
Will the public get it, though?
Yeah, it's a comedy must-see. I know comedy.
But do you know
smart.
Serbian empires?
No.
No.
I don't know half of what he's talking about.
So why are we going to laugh? We're going to
Because
laugh.
we present it as a comedy. It's a comedy telling of the history of the world in 75 minutes. Is that clear,
Did
Larry?
you write it? Yes. Did you write it all?
He wrote the whole thing.
And you're the director.
I'm the director.
Are you nervous?
Have you ever seen... This doesn't look like Broadway to you.
No.
does it? You're thinking Broadway? We started in how many seats down there in 45 Bleecker? 100
Oh, you
seats.
did it off Broadway.
We did a
100
100-seat theater. Investors came in. They loved the show. They said, we didn't want to take it to Broadway.
No.
We were just screwing around. And they go, this is a Broadway show. We went, really? They go, yeah, we'll put up all the money.
It is true.
You didn't put up any of your money?
No. Wow.
Even down to family. Who do you badmouth more than the people you love the most? Friends and family. You get invited to a wedding, badmouth all the people you're going to see the whole way down there. You get out of your system so you don't accidentally do it in front of them. Spend the whole time there gathering up new material for the ride home. Coming back with a call for people from somewhere, badmouthing all the people you just left. Then as you start dropping people off, now you start bad-mouthing them. They're barely out of the car. You're like, take it easy, good to see you. What the f*** was that all about? They're still waving at you in the rearview mirror, all over them. And it's your turn to get out of the car. You're like, I'm not getting out of this car.
From Saturday Night Live to tough crowd on Comedy Central, Colin Quinn has been making us laugh for decades. Now he's teaming up with Jerry Seinfeld to give you a history lesson covering, just 2,000 years. Please welcome Brooklynite Colin Quinn to Good Day New York. Let's talk about your one-man show, Long Story Short.
Okay.
How did this all come about, you teaming up with Jerry Seinfeld?
Well, I started playing with this thing like last year out at Governor's in Long Island. Did it there a few times. And then at Gotham Comedy Club, I did a version of it. Then Jerry said, I'll produce it. And then I said, great. And then we started working together. And I said, why don't you direct it? You know, just throwing it out
What's
there.
he like as a director?
But then he goes, yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
He's, he's tough. He's got his ideas. I have my ideas. But luckily, we're both comedians. So we see the same part of most things, which is we want it to be funny.
And of course, the Jews never changed since time began. They're the same as in the Old Testament. Argue with their relatives every chapter of the Old Testament. Then they argue with God. They always think they know the best way to do everything. Right? They get turned into pills of salt, which is a Jew's worst nightmare because of the sodium. Triglycerides. And everywhere the Jews go, they got chased out immediately. That's why shalom means hello and goodbye. And peace. And peace, because that's their story. We're here, we're leaving, don't hit us. Shalom, shalom, shalom.